Hello, I'm NovaSC and I'm going to be commentating a PvP on Overgrowth, I believe. I'm in the old default interface, so it doesn't actually tell me the name anywhere. But I'm pretty sure it's called Overgrowth. I've played it enough. So I'm in the top right. Nova, I should probably bring up the names, that's a pretty cool one. That's not quite the names. I'm against Iron Cross in the bottom left. A PvP, as I said, so we can expect lots and lots of all-ins and cheese from both players involved, statistically. So though I don't tend to do that myself. As you can see, me not proxying this pylon in the slightest. Neither is my opponent, but of course that doesn't rule out the all-ins. The far more popular lame sort of style in PvP. Cheese has been going out of fashion since the Mothership core, though I do still see a few 2-gate proxies, because people tend to... I've seen people think, I can get a Mothership core and defend 2-gate proxies 100% of the time, but then it doesn't usually work out that way because you will lose too many probes before the zealots die, and things go bad from there. I think that was a 12-gate? Must have been a 12-gate from Iron Cross. Myself, I'm going for the more standard 13-gate. 12-gate used to be extremely popular in the beginning of Wings of Liberty, when no one could ever stop 4-gate under any condition. Back then, warp gate research took about 30 seconds less time to finish, which is hilarious. He's going for the single gate, so this is looking a lot like a 4-gate. The 12-gate allows you to build a cybernetics core slightly faster for a slightly faster warp gate. That gives you all the gas you need to just get warp gate and a few stalkers. The 4-gate is like lots of zealots. Well, not huge numbers of zealots, but a few of them. Compared to most builds going for the 2 gas, which don't build nearly as many zealots early on. And I'm opening really normally, so this is my formation to help me defend against 2 gates proxies. Fighting in a split like this prevents more than maybe 2 units attacking. Only allows a maximum of 2 units to attack your zealots, so it's very useful when your opponent has a mass number, a very large number of those zealots. Going on to that warp gate research, I walk in with my probe. First time I've scouted. This is a reasonable scout timing. It's about when my opponent should be throwing down tech, so it's a good time to be scouting my opponent here. He sees everything that I've been doing, but I haven't really given much away yet, because my build's a bit slower than his. I'm playing more conservative. And I see the 2 extra gates go down. So I know this is going to be aggressive, but I don't know if this is going to be a play to sort of deny me from taking expansion, which is a very strong thing to do. Because this looks like an expansion from me. If he goes for 3 gates, he can usually deny my expansion. And now I see the 4th gate as well, so I know this is a 4-gate. I've played 4 gates against 4 gates more than any other build, so I know pretty much how to deal with this. And I'm so confident that I'm actually going to throw down an expansion, even though I've seen the 4-gate. Now, this seems really stupid throwing down an expansion at this point, but if I don't throw down the expansion and he doesn't build anything out of these gateways, then I'm sort of behind in that situation, because I've set myself up to expand and I haven't expanded. And he's only just lost 150 minerals that he shouldn't have spent. The 3 gateways are you sort of build those anyway, because I'm going to be getting 3 gates mighty soon anyway. I get 2 sentries. That's enough for me to hold the ramp while I figure out what my opponent's planning to do with those 4 gateways. It's usually an all-in, but it doesn't have to be. He could make 4 stalkers, see the expansion and expand. I'm not necessarily saying that's a good thing to do, but he could. Can't assume. This is actually Diamond League as well, so anything could happen. And he's working down my Nexus. I don't expect to keep that, I just want to ensure that he builds quite a few units. I mean, 4 stalkers is quite an investment in gas already. Stalkers are very expensive, and now he's built 6 stalkers, 2 zealots. I'm fairly happy that he's committing to this, so I cancel that off. Happy with that. Even with 4 stalkers, I'd be very difficult to defend that expansion. Now I start making more sentries. I've thrown down the Robo before my 3rd sentry, confident that the sentries will keep me alive for a few seconds. Just the 2 sentries will keep me alive for a few more seconds. And now I'm going to be warping in up to a maximum of 5. That's only if I miss the force fields and have to use 2 instead of 1 by accident. It's good to have 5 just as a backup. I don't really need any more than this in theory. That's going to keep me alive, and I have this gas. All these sentries are going to be very useful for a follow-up push, so I've got units which are much more effective in the mid-game than my opponent at the moment. Haven't got any zealots as well. Getting some free zealots here. And getting an observer just in case he's going for Dark Templar behind this, because I haven't seen actually that much gas out of him. He could have taken a second gas earlier than I realised. He could have DTs, it's possible. It would be quite a bad thing to do, but he could. And he's going for an expansion, which is the only real option at this point. He needs to improve his economy, otherwise he's going to just lose. Because I have a much better tech advantage than him. I have a huge tech advantage on him at the moment. Immortal, working on the second one's almost done. He hasn't even started his rover yet. Oh yeah, he has actually. Just finished an observer, that's all. 2 immortals. So my army's getting much stronger than my opponent's. Yeah, it's much stronger already. And even though the army values say that I would win in a convincing fashion, if I pushed down this ramp I would lose due to the force fields, and because he's going to have a very nice concave on me, so can't leave just yet, which is the strength of using a 4-gate, because it contains your opponent for a long time while you can take that expansion. I had a bit of excess minerals. I wasn't making probes where I should have, so I threw down a 4th gateway. Didn't really need to do that, but I'm going to need the 4th gateway anyway eventually, so not a huge deal. The gas is really the most important thing in the PvP, so not too worried about that. 3 immortals are making my army look really strong, and I actually went for a robo bay. Now I need some way of breaking out of this contain. He can keep making sentries, he can keep making zealots. I wouldn't be able to break out if I continue making the composition I'm making here. I'd need some sort of warp prism. I'd need to just be able to start warping units down here. I'd need charge or something. Anything will do that will help me break out. I usually go for blink. I like a blink play because I can blink down here and go for the counter attack while leaving my sentries here to defend the main. But Robo Bay is what I've opted to go for this time, because the Robo Bay will allow me to build Colossus, which can knock down the force fields, and Colossus are obviously going to be very good against most of my opponent's army, because he's got a mainly gateway force due to producing so many gateways early on. Going for the Colossus before the range, I need the Colossus out really early to break down the force fields. As soon as the Colossus comes out, I can push down the ramp. I can break the force field. Be very careful not to get the Colossus sniped. Luckily he's moved away, so won't have to worry about that at all. And I move down. I want to expand as quickly as possible to begin working on my economy. I really want to catch up with my opponent, who is at 35 probes. Not a huge lead, but he does have a Nexus mining gas, and again, as I say, gas is really important in PvP, so really want to stop that from happening. Actually, supply box my opponent now. I'm sitting on a supply lead thanks to that Colossus and the Immortals. I have 5 sentries from the defense, and the sentries are going to be really useful for this attack. It will be able to force field these locations like this and make it very difficult for my opponent to trade cost efficiently. So I move into my opponent's base, and he moves to the right hand side near his 3rd, so this is going to allow him to get a surround on my army if he does this properly. I move in. Probably should have looked to the 3rd first. It was a very bad play for him to take a 3rd, but he could have done that, so maybe I should have looked. And if successfully gets the surrounds, noticing the units, I instantly move out. I don't want to get cornered by the Photon Overcharge and these units, so I move out here. Lots of force fields picking off the Immortals really nicely. Now I'm outside of the range of the Photon Overcharge, I'm not taking nearly as much damage, and I can defeat the rest of his army. The Colossus is putting in some serious work, killing 2 units so far, but there might have been a Stalker and a Immortal, and every unit makes so much difference in PvP that's quite important. The Immortal's doing a lot of damage as well. He has mainly armoured units in his army. It's true that they'll be dealing less damage to his Immortals, but once you've worked away all those shields with the Colossus and the sentries, then they're going to die very fast to my Immortals. And I can clean up the rest of his army after using some extra force fields. I have more than enough energy to force field all day long. Back home I'm continuing continuing to produce Colossus. I have taken an expansion and I haven't cut probes as much as I usually do, so that's nice. And I move in. My army's not as strong as I would like, so I'm moving out of there. He can't engage me due to all my force fields and my lovely Colossus, which will do so much damage. But I have to move out because I don't have enough zealots, I don't have enough tanky units to actually push in and kill his overcharged Nexus. Now when my opponent's going for Dark Shrine, he's been upgrading very well, which is a very good play because he's gone for a very gateway heavy army, so he's going to have a lot of units. The more units you have, the more effective those upgrades are going to be. He's sitting on 1-1 at the moment compared to my 0-0-0. I'm working on the first upgrade right now. But I'm not too worried about my upgrades at the moment. My army's smaller than his in terms of numbers, but it's much stronger in terms of tech. So as long as I maintain a nice tech advantage in my Colossus, I should be fine for army. Right now I have such a strong army, he's not going to be able to push out at me very early anytime soon, so I could be taking a third here, but I feel fairly confident in my Colossus that I can finish the game here. Working on my +1 upgrades and continuing to produce Colossus at home, so this is in no way an all-in though. Focusing down his upgrades there felt like a good choice, considering all my anti-armor damage. Using some extra force fields to kill off his immortals. When my Colossus goes down, I do notice that he does have DTs in his army, but before recalling out, I do finish off the last of his immortals. He's now sitting on 0, I believe. Yeah, no immortals for him, and my army's looking a lot stronger, even though in size it isn't that strong. But I have those Colossus, I have immortals, I have the big beefy units that Process love to have. Now my opponent's going for Phoenix, so this is a good decision. He saw that I didn't have any real anti-air. I had so many anti-ground units. I have 3 of the immortals, of course. I have the 2 Colossus. And Phoenix is going to be a really good choice here. And I'm continuing to produce Zealots, so I'm looking in pretty poor shape if he gets a large number of Phoenix. He's sitting on, how many again? Just 1 at the moment, so that's not too much of a threat. But luckily I've got my while it counts win. Oh, sorry, he's going for some harassment techniques here. DT's in the mix. I did build cannons as soon as seeing the Dark Templar. Well, obviously I didn't see them, but I saw them destroy my units. But yeah, did quite a bit of damage here. Units lost. Ooh, units lost. Just 1 actually, so not really impressive actually. Actually 9. I don't know why I saw 1. I think that I saw that 9 as a 0 for some reason. 9 units killed, so that's okay. But he would have really liked to have killed more probes, considering how many units he invested in that attack. Units was probably going to be favouring me, yeah, favouring me a lot. And we've mined pretty much the same amount. I think we've mined similar amounts in this game. Probably, obviously a bit more for him because his expansion was a lot earlier than mine, but doesn't justify the difference in the units lost. So I've been playing a lot more cost efficiently this game. I'm moving in. I'm going to check for a third. I think I thought he was probably on 2 bases at this point, but he has actually taken the third. Very risky from him. But he's relying on the Phoenix for dealing with my Colossus, and then he can clean up the rest of my army, which is a good choice. I have the Observer. I can kill all of these DTs, so he's going to have to push out of there. And in come the Phoenix right now, and I haven't seen these before. I didn't scout as much as I probably should have in this game. Even though I had those sentries early on, I probably could have been scouting his main a bit more with hallucinated Phoenixes. And decides to kill off his base before recalling. Unfortunately, he kills off the Mothership Core. And he's going to be able to kill a few free Colossus here. Back home, I'll warp in some Stalkers and lots of High Templar, an even number so I can make them into Archons straight away. And I send them towards my Colossus so that I can feed back all of his Phoenix and stop them from massacring my Colossus. Killing 2 Colossus there. His Phoenix have pretty much paid off already. Those Colossus are very expensive. And I really need to be thinking about taking a third now because he's just immediately retaken his base. Units are going to be favouring him substantially, yes. Wow, that's a really big probe lead. Shame that he's not mining at all. Now, I'm not worried about the probe lead because having huge numbers of probes, because this base is mining out. I'm just going to be taking a third. I'm just going to be able to transfer this. If I had 65 probes, I wouldn't have much of an economic advantage over him, so the probes seem completely unnecessary, and it's going to be taking away from my army supply as well. So I start to take into my third. I see there's a stalker there, so I'm obviously not going to expand straight away, but I'm going to warp in some units while I'm going away to clear off that stalker. I just really want to be attacking as soon as possible. I see a timing window to move in. Not exactly a timing window, but I see an opportunity. He's got invested a lot in Phoenix, and now I have the Archons and the Stalkers to deal with the Phoenix, so I'm sure they're going to be able to do a lot of damage with my Colossus and Mortals here to deny his base again. And while I do that, I'm going to be able to take my expansion and have a base lead on him. Not exactly an economic lead because he has more probes, but the income difference shouldn't be too bad. And now I've seen Void Rays out of him, so I know he's committing fairly heavily to air. A whole 3 Void Rays out of my opponent. I'm going for double upgrades now, sitting on 2-1, working on the 3 upgrades, the 3 ground weapons. He's only on 2-1, even though he started those upgrades much earlier than me. I don't know why that is. He probably could have been... I'd say that's a mistake. I mean, shields would have been really useful here for his air army as well. Yeah, I would have liked to see more upgrades out of him, which is a shame. After seeing all those aggressive moves from him, he still has the Warp Prism here, by the way, and I know about it. I've built quite a few cannons around, at least 1 per base, 2 at the main because that's where he likes to be attacking, even though there isn't really much here. The cannons are still going to be protecting my tech structures. 2 Void Rays at a time coming from him. He's really confident in his Void Ray-ness. I'm getting my Psystorm. Psystorm's going to be absolutely key in defending against air armies. I always get Storm against any type of Protoss army, but I'll be getting it a lot later, near 4 or 5 bases against the normal army, whereas against air armies, Storm is just so much more useful because they clump up a lot. Void Rays especially are quite slow, so Storm is very much more effective. And you can place a storm up here, for example. It's a really nice thing to be able to do. And he's over probed here, so all those probes that he has over me isn't going to be making much of a difference in this game because he doesn't have enough bases to support that many probes. Which is again why I wasn't too concerned about him having more probes than me at this point. I probably could be making more probes than I am. Actually, we've both cut them at the moment. Very concerned about the upcoming engagements. Shield coming from my opponent, which is way overdue. I move out to attack. With my observer I see this attack coming in, so I'm going to be able to get a surround on my opponent, and for some reason he doesn't have a mothership core in his army, which is a complete mistake. I cannot think of any reason why he'd opt to not make a mothership core. He's got it here. I think that's a mistake, and he might have actually accidentally lost this. Or maybe he's just using it for counterattacks, but that just seems a lot weaker than being able to attack like this and deny my base and then recall out safely. Think of all these Void Rays that you could have saved, though they are going to still be able to do a lot of damage. Feedbacks finish off those Phoenix very quickly, allow me to move on to these Void Rays. I'm going to focus on overcharge and blink across with the Phoenix Stalkers. I'm going to be able to kill a few Void Rays, which are very flimsy, before they kill off my natural. And the income's going to be greatly favouring my opponent, even moving into a 4th right now. And this is a real big pain for me to deal with. I'm going to try and kill off my Templar Archives as quickly as possible. I have to keep returning. Probably could move out with my units which can't shoot up to try and deny some bases, and then catch up with the anti-air units later. But I'm going to have to start defending my base because I really don't want him taking out all of my bases. Actually, saying that, my income is has just absolutely hit the floor because my main base is mined out, so I have no efficiently mining bases at the moment compared to my opponent, who has this base is sort of mined out, and this fully mining base, which is overprobed in fact. As soon as I kill off those Void Rays, which he probably could have done a lot more damage with than he did if he just held them here. As soon as I kill off those Void Rays, I'm going to go for the counter-attack because he's got so much more income than me, and I really need to stop that. Upgrades have continued. Well, they're not right now. There they are. Upgrades from my opponent, in fact. Whoops. Why am I not upgrading? I guess... Oh yeah, of course, because I have no income. Of course, why am I even thinking that? But even though I'm not upgrading right now, I do have the income lead of 312 compared to 112. The third upgrade in attack is going to make a huge difference here. And actually my upgrade lead is quite substantial. Left my army up here while using the zealots to kill off this base, and that's just so he can't actually get a beneficial angle on me. He can't get a good angle on me, because if he attacked down the ramp while I was down there, that wouldn't have been a nice engagement for me, whereas up here my Colossus can make best use of their range. Try and not get surrounded by these void rays. I'm not trying to get flanked at all. Storming as much as possible, but not going over the top and storming my own units, just saving them. I only have a few storms. Against Protoss armies, having huge numbers of High Templar isn't cost effective, you just want a few. So I want to make best use of those storms. I'm going for another counter-attack from my opponent, but I just warp in a DT and some zealots to clean that up. He might be sending an observer over there. He does have an observer over there, so he might be able to persist with his aggression there. But unfortunately for him, his units are clumped up a lot. Storm's going to be absolutely devastating, and so are those Archons. I just have too many units at this point, and my units have just been too cost effective this whole game, and I'm going to be killing off the remainder of his probes. And that seals off the game, that finishes the game. So I hope you enjoyed that game. I thought this was quite cool, and it's got a lot of back and forth action, a lot of counterattacks from my opponent. I probably should have been doing that, but I like to focus on my army a lot. True Protoss style. So yes, I'll hopefully bring you a few more games like this actually, because I played a few more today. Could cast those today. Depends how lazy I am. On the scale of 0 to lazy, I'm about 9 point lazy. So that's that. Yeah, I'll see you later. Goodbye.